Okay, so when I hear tell us a bit about yourself, I'm always wondering what bit do you want me to tell? But for the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to try to pick out the, I don't know, most relevant bits. I like to say that I'm a multimedia artist, given that I'm somebody who likes to learn everything and know everything. I have a strong background in media production, all of that. So that kind of spurs my creativity on a whole. I'm always bringing an element of the things that I have learned over the years or the things that I know into new things or new experiences. I grew up the first child of 4 in Ondo town. I'm a strong Yoruba girl. And I have always been fascinated by cultural nuances around growth, emotion, our experiences as a whole as humans. I've always been fascinated about how it differs from place to place. I've also always admired the idea that you can birth anything from anything. And so to sum up who I am might be a little bit difficult because I am still in the process of discovering who I am really. But I would say that I am that one person who is extremely creative and who wants to explore my creativity regardless of the experience that presents itself or regardless of the situation I find myself. Okay, so I know it sounds cliche when people say, oh, I've always drawn, when I was my mom's womb, I started painting. That's not the case with me anyway, but I know that from an early age, I've always been interested in arts. In fact, if you check all my academic records, I excelled more in arts subjects than most, maths being the least of them all. But so for me, painting or an introduction to the arts began early, primary school. I always enjoyed my fine art classes. Secondary school, I just paint random stuff, bring them home. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't think so much about it. I just felt, oh, it was something that I enjoyed. I also found that it was a way to process my emotions, or should I say process my head, so to speak. But I did not think that I would one day call myself an artist. So fast forward to moving out, going to school, that's uni, studying other things, looking for the best life I could get. I absolutely forgot that art existed for me. But then I think 2014, I just painted a couple of pieces for my birthday. It's just my birthday, but that was it, nothing else. Fast forward to 2020, I had the most turbulent period of my life till date. That period was hell for me. And I would just say that art and raising plants brought me from the brink of suicide because it was a crazy period, and I felt like, it's okay, we're not doing it again, and then I started painting again, I started drawing again, and it just felt like, the me that needed to process things in my head was back. And I could say that 2020 was, so if we want to count officially now, I would say 2020 was that year that I refocused on my art. I think that it is a strong statement to make, given that a lot of times we don't like to admit, as humans now, we do not like to admit that we are not strong. We like to present a front that is coordinated. We like for people to witness us, to explore or experience us as people that are very coordinated, very put together. And it's very evident in how we show up, right? I mentioned earlier that 2020 was a wild year for me. And at the time, because I no longer do that at the moment, at the time I was a TV presenter And I was showing up at work. I was showing up, I was giving the best hugs on the planet. I was the happy-go-lucky, but on the inside, I was dead. I would produce shows. I would all my energy. I put all my energy in there. And you would see me, and if I didn't tell you what was going on, when I told some people what was going on, it was difficult to believe. It was difficult to believe because, really, are you sure? But you're smiling, So there is this tendency for us to not want to be faced with the truth that, while there's a call on us and expectation on us to be strong, it can't always happen all the time. You can't always be strong. And there's this deception that comes from it, from thinking you're strong or from not allowing yourself to explore the depths of who you are, from not being vulnerable enough to say, yeah, I need help, or yeah, I'm in trouble. And you can see it cuts across every experience we have as humans, from being married to not being married, from having a child to not having a child, from getting a job to not having a job anymore. And for me, I'll just link it up to what I do in my art. I strongly believe that life is cyclical. It's not linear. We always tend to think that life is linear, I give birth to a child, it goes to primary school, just as if it's a straight journey. It's never a straight journey, regardless of where you're coming from or the platforms or the opportunities that you have. It's never a straight journey. And so there's a tendency for us to deceive ourselves and think that it's a straight journey. So I think that the exhibition theme exposes the depth of deception that goes around the human experience, because I think it forces us to look inward again and reconnect with that vulnerable state where we accept the undeniable truth that we can't always be strong. Yeah, there are days that it's required to show that you have strength, but then it's not all the time. It's not all the time. Yeah, so I was saying that in my work, the biggest theme for my work is exploring strong emotions in the human experience. I believe that life is cyclical, as I was saying. If you look at the Yoruba belief system about how we came to be, you realize that it's a circle. So you see, let me take Abiku for an example. You see the Abiku that is born several seasons over, born today, dies tomorrow, come back, and then it's just a repeated cycle of unending misery. Now let's expand that into the origin stories, the origin story of being a Yoruba person, of just being a human being. Yorubas believe that the spiritual world and the physical world are not so far apart. Yeah, they believe that at your birth, you run your cycle on earth, and when you die, you come back reincarnated as something else or someone else. So it just gives you this non-ending cycle, of death, birth, rebirth, and then you just keep going like that until you probably, reach the optimal form that you should be in. So I am somebody who likes to explore that belief system by saying that life is filled with patterns, and it's never a blank sheet. It's never black and white. There are patterns. There are underlying in the way we speak, in the way we go about our daily businesses. There are patterns to notice, and then when you notice those patterns, it helps you to know, okay, is this pattern working for me? Should I break the jinx of this pattern, or should I reinvent myself? So basically, you find that for me, I think that my work ties to the exhibition on the levels of the patterns that I explore in my drawings. Apart from that, I also create sounds that explores, how would I put it now? That enhances, that's the word, that enhances the experience of the viewer with my work. So while you're looking at my drawing, you're also listening to the sounds that inspired the drawing, or you're listening to something that adds to the experience you have. I believe that our brains make connections, and those connections in turn helps us to decide or determine if we are strong or weak. And I also finally believe that there is no such thing as good or bad. There's no such thing as strong or weak. There's only existence. Really, there's only existence. Right now, if I scream at you, your perspective or your perception of me screaming to you is bad, because what on earth did I do to deserve that? Yeah. But to me, I might just be screaming because I feel that's the best way I could express myself. Now, how do we educate on who is right or who is wrong in that context? So basically, the way I tie my work to this exhibition is me wanting to explore human emotions, how we pretend that those things are not there. I am a strong advocate of allowing your emotions express themselves, or allowing your emotions to carry the identity they want to carry. Now, I didn't say to carry your identity. It's when you understand what your emotions are there for that you know how to interpret it or work with it, as it were. Maybe not 100%, because I am a very expressive person. If I'm not sharing it with someone I trust, I'm probably writing a poem about it, or doing a voiceover about it, or I'm probably getting it out of my head in one way or another. But this is what I would say about vulnerability. I mentioned earlier that there's no blank sheet, there's no black and white. There are hidden things, between black and white. And so the same applies to being vulnerable. It's not set in stone per se. You can't say that someone sharing a bit of their pain with you is the highest form of vulnerability. In fact, vulnerability could be as simple as somebody just saying, I'm not feeling okay. I don't want to talk about it, but I just want you to sit with me. In that moment, that's all the vulnerability that is required, right? So for me, would I say there are parts of the experience that I had that I still don't talk about? Yes. And is it because there's no one to talk to? No. It's because I feel like I have not processed it well enough to have an informed conversation about it. I say that with all sense of responsibility, knowing that also there are people involved. There are other people's emotions also involved. I always say something. What happened to me in 2020 was a big aspect of becoming who I am. I don't know how else to put that, but I would say the person I was needed to die for the person I am to come alive. And if that didn't happen, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today. Did I say probably? I would be sitting here today. So that needed to happen. And as much as it was a painful experience, initially, as expected, I was angry. Like, what nonsense, how would you do that to me, blah, blah, blah. And then when I had enough time to process my emotions, I realized that he did what he thought was best under the circumstance. I did what I thought was best under the circumstance. Every other person involved, every other person that attempted to, okay, what should we do? Did what they thought was best under the circumstance. We only behave or react to things based on what we see or what we believe is best in the moment. And it's okay. Really, it's really okay. And, as touching the subject of being vulnerable, I would say one thing that rings true for me. And that is, I just try my best to make sure that in my vulnerability, I'm also not hurting the person I'm being vulnerable to. There's a tendency to think that, I'm just letting out my pain, but then you're bleeding all over the next person because you've not taken time to process what it is or what it means for you to have gone through that. So I see what happened to me in 2020 as a big lesson. So maybe now, on levels of vulnerability, yeah, there are times I will remember some things and I'll get angry all over again. I'll be like, nah, you know. So it's never a straight journey, like I said. You may not get to the end of those emotions for the rest of your life, but then, by the time when those emotions show up and you encounter them, the best you can do is to just let them be. Like, recognize that they are there and they have a right to be there. It helps you, actually. It just helps you move faster along. All right, so I mentioned that all my life I've dabbled into a lot of things. For me to relax, I doodle a lot. I just doodle. I doodle a lot. What else do I do to relax? Let me say, I think doodling is the biggest. I currently work as my 9-to-5 job. I currently work in advertising, and 90% out of the time, I'm in meetings, I'm in client presentations, I'm doodling. At work, they just know, like, okay, just whatever. There's no book that doesn't have a doodle on it. So for me, it's relaxing. I even find that I listen more, I remember stuff more when I'm doodling, because there's a part of me that is paying attention to you, but I'm doodling because, I mean, my brain is in a riot. There's so many things in there. If not art, I think that I do not consider art as that one thing that I can set apart, or that, I'm only doing it because, I don't know how to explain that, but I think that art is a part of me. So there's no day I'm not doing art. And what I mean by that is I'm a creative person. I have had the privilege and opportunity to work across several genres, several industries in the creative space. And so my art is something that I infuse in all of those spaces. I was a presenter, producer, I directed shows, I'm a production designer for movies. Like, so, I mean, it's just basic. Like, there's really, so if I'm not doing art, I don't know, maybe law. But yeah, so that's it for me. I'm a big Asha fan. I'm not sure there's any song that I don't know. But then I am also someone who doesn't restrict. I don't restrict the kind of music I listen to, because I believe that music has its own power, has its own energy, and there are some works that need some certain energy, and there's some works that need some energy. You get what I'm saying? So, for instance, I went to, I think today is Saturday. On Thursday, I was at Freedom Park for celebration, and I found Made's performance inspiring. It was just, he did a tribute song, sang When Trouble Sleep, Yanga Go Wake Up. That's a song that I have loved for all time. I mean, if there's any Fela song that, if you on the spot you say sing any Fela song, that's the first song I'm going to sing. Yeah. And I found myself recording his performance. Why? Because an idea jumped at me right there, just seated there watching the performance, and I told myself, yeah, I'm executing this, and I recorded that. So for me, I don't restrict myself, because I believe that inspiration comes in like a billion formats. So